Make it.
Beautiful.
All right, and welcome to the session, everybody. We have almost talked zero about the used book model, which is crazy because in the beginning of my career, my reselling career, I did a lot of used books. And so I have my mentor here, Max, and a friend that I met a while back, Koty the book guy. They have a Discord that is just around books, and nobody knows books better than these guys. Like they're doing the like a legit job of building that community and really adding value. So I'm excited to talk to him. If you're interested in that sort of thing, go follow. It's Common Ground Finds. And what's your handle, Koty?
It's Koty the book guy. Koty the book guy.
Koty the book guy. Yeah, I'll link that when I'll make a little description under this, and I'll put you guys' stuff in there if you want to get me a link. But
yeah, we can get you a link to what we've got for sure.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming on. I really
Koty will get you the link.
Yeah. I will get you the link. That's for sure.
I could totally see that. Koty does the tech stuff, and
it always works out that way.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I know both of you guys are busy and you've got, big businesses you're running, but so one of my passions is like the low income person that's below the poverty line that is trying to get, above the poverty line, someone who's started at the bottom and is trying to build their way up. And used books, I mean, that's where it's at. So I'd like to talk about some of like the basics and like the, some of the more basic stuff, but then also some of the home run stuff that you guys are finding too is amazing. So
all right, well, yeah, Koty and I run a Patreon group that has a Zoom call and a Discord attached to it called Paper Gold, an ongoing book hunters conversation, and we meet every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think at last call we had just under 75 members to that group, and we are of course all over North America, but we are as far as Tel Aviv, Israel. We are in Australia.
Get out of here.
And we are in England, and not only do we have that Zoom call on Thursdays where we talk about both platforms of eBay and Amazon and selling books and growing stores, but we're solution based. We're not making videos complaining about the algorithms of eBay or Amazon. There's no complaints. We are all solution based. We're all about making money and teaching people how to do this. And what you had just introduced about people learning the business who may be struggling financially, I know that Koty and I both agree about this. Books is the doorway. 1000% books is the doorway.
Sure.
And so we pride ourselves in teaching people all about this, and not only doing that, but once sort of maybe they get out of that poverty line, growing their stores to try
Sure.
to rescue them into financial freedom.
Yeah, some of those guys that I follow, back from my used book days, they're doing millions. I mean, they're doing like crazy volume with used books, and that's just their bread and butter is just every day it's used books. So
yeah, and Koty and I do things from two different vantage points, but the similar thing we do together is we move product and we teach people how to do that. And
sure.
Koty is, much more fashioned into the Amazon platform, and I'm much more fashioned on the eBay platform. But we also do things differently than most people who are on YouTube or Instagram or doing things. And it's not like we have hacks. We just have tried and true ways of doing things a different way that get greater results than what most people understand. Koty, the used book guy, I gotta say that. You have anything to add on that I'm missing?
No, I mean, while they may not necessarily be hacks, I kind of would say that they might be hacks when it comes to especially the Amazon market, because when a lot of people consider, based off of what a lot of the standard YouTube content is out there, based on red and greens, if it's good or bad, and what somebody tells you to stick to a certain guideline, and if it doesn't meet this, then it's a dud or whatever. But like I've recently sold just in the past couple of days, I sold a book that was over almost 12 million ranking. Like that sort of stuff it only matters to a certain point. And
Yeah,
and that's a part of especially what I do on the Amazon market is I can go in and I can find books that, people normally wouldn't find. And I also target those books that, either the pricing is crazy, you can go through it and find what the book's actually selling for. That's a big part of what I do in my world. So you're taking you take the mindset out of it being I'm an Amazon bookseller and put it into I'm a bookseller. And if you can do that and utilize Amazon's marketplace, which is like, I say this like I feel like every time we have a conversation about this, 75% of the used book market being on that platform and pricing your books to sell, you can do a great job with beyond what your barcodes or ISBNs go. And I don't care what anybody tells you, I sell books daily on Amazon that are non-barcode, non-ISBN, vintage, antique, all of the above. 30% of my book inventory, I would is going to be that type of book. But the beautiful thing about that is that 30% makes up 50% of my profits at the end of the year. So, when you're looking at these people that are scanning Gaylords and they're tossing all these non-barcode books,
sure.
they're like, if that were me in that position, that would be 50% of my annual income just on the
Yeah,
books that they're throwing away. And that's kind of what one of the bigger things that I bring to the table. It kind of that's what merged me and Max together, our two worlds together. Like those oftentimes are the same types of books that he's collecting and selling on eBay. And those are the ones that I target on the Amazon marketplace. And together, with both of our knowledge on both platforms, it's just been phenomenal the growth that we've seen people have in our show.
Yeah, and I'll
that's
also
amazing.
add this, there's just a lot of wrong information. There's a lot
Yeah.
of wrong information out there. And my dog's barking here. Just to summarize it real quickly, I know that when you go on Instagram or YouTube and people are scanning books, they're talking about green is good and red is bad. And that is so far from the truth and the wrong information. And I feel like, and Cody and I feel like when that information is out there and people aren't having success, it means they didn't start with any successful idea because they're getting the wrong information.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can talk to that. Go
go ahead,
ahead,
Cody.
Cody.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so in the beginning, when I started reselling used books, I was cherry picking. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's where you go in a thrift store and you scan with your app of choice, and you look. I was literally just red green looking for that, and I had a good bit of success just doing that, and I liked that model. And then later, I started a bulk book business. I got a warehouse and I started doing bulk books, and it failed miserably. By the way, I was terrible at that business model. That I can see in the background of Cody's. That kind of looks like what my place used to look like.
Yeah.
But I mean, I couldn't get the labor, and I didn't want to do the labor myself. I didn't have the time, and so mine didn't do well just because I didn't I didn't double down when I needed to. But all we were doing was the red and green. And if I had known Max back then and like really been able to get some of this information, I think I could have. I think there's a version of my life where I could be a huge used book
Yeah.
bulk bookseller now, because if that I'm thankful because I moved on to really double down on arbitrage. But if I had stayed in that world, I mean the margins are crazy. You find books for 50 cents or $1, or if you're doing bulk, you get them 35 cents a pound or whatever you're paying. And then you like some of them they're selling for, you scan and it's like $17 profit, $34 profit. And then there's a bunch that are like $5 profit, just back to back to back. Yeah, that's a great business model.
Yeah. And what I will say to your point, Cody, you'd made mention of like you didn't have the labor, things like that. I've done this by myself for multiple years. I've just recently acquired having a person do the listing, and what I will say that is a counter to that point, just based off of my failures and things I've learned, is it's not so much about the labor, organization, and the way you process this inventory and having that stuff laid out in the right order and processing things the right way will, I mean, that is 90% of the problem most people are having. And you talk about, you know, your most of your community, you like to, they're kind of like hitting those, like buying cheap and selling high. Well, the biggest cost in what I do specifically, just to throw it out there, I work with thrift stores, bookstores, estate sale companies, libraries, and I just buy their back end, right? And I buy everything. But the biggest cost is the sweat equity that I put into
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But you
Double
know,
agrees.
but I will say, you know, over time, I've learned different ways to even cut that down dramatically, and I'm still changing those ways that I'm, you know, things I'm implementing to make that happen too. And that's part of what I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is just the journey that I've had where I started with things and showing people
Sure.
ways to avoid, you know, these big headaches. Even if, you know, like the labor is the hard part for you, there are tools you can implement to keep that from being so taxing. Like I have collapsible totes that stack on each other now, you know, doesn't take up space in the warehouse. It goes on a dolly. I'm never picking anything up. I've got a ramp that goes to my truck. Now everything is just, it gets pushed. No
Yeah.
lifting unless there's stairs, which happens sometimes. But you know,
Yeah.
even then there's things to look out. But again, you know, with the business model that I like to bring to the table, um, utilizing different tools to make that sweat equity cost you less, and organization, and learning the easiest ways to process these things, because you can knock out 90% of these books in a matter of hours that you're picking up, you know, or an hour. You know, the faster you get
Sure.
with it, you can knock out a majority of them really quickly. It's all about your workflow and your organization to it, that allows me to prosper and not, you know, get backed up, not deal with that sort of stuff. Because, you know,
Yeah.
the books that are more difficult to process, it's not like you don't stop your workflow to go through those. You know what I'm saying? You put those to the side. You have your own section for different types of books like that. And when you're done processing, then you can go through it. And if you haven't finished processing, you got more, well, you can just continue to build that pile, because there's going to be times of the year where you're not going to get as much inventory coming in, and then you can utilize your time better
Yeah.
for those types of for that type of inventory. And again, you know, it's just like a small portion of what I bring,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
it's great, when you, especially when you're talking about buying low. I mean, you can't get any, like you said, any better than buying low. But what I
Yeah.
will say too is what we really try and push to our members is you know, there is good money to find in thrift stores, especially if you're in a very rural area. But as you know, that the book market is getting more and more saturated to a point with sellers going through thrift stores. So you want, like, targeting these collections any way you can find them as raw. We use that term raw, as possible, but basically the closest to somebody's collection. So, you know, if you're working with a thrift store or library and you're picking up the donations, most of the time those are somebody's collection, you know. That
Sure.
that's
Right.
where
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are that's where these are coming from, and you're going to turn your acceptance rate from 8% to 15% acceptance rate to 20% acceptance rate. I've had one pickup recently from a collection that was a 45% acceptance rate on the Amazon. So it was like
That's crazy. Yeah.
insane.
And
Congrats.
let me add, those are books that most people would have passed by
Hmm.
Sure.
because they may not know books or be aware of what type of books to buy. I know what Cody's talking about. Um, but you know, once you learn what to sort of look for,
Hmm.
it becomes amazing. Cody and I, we just had one of our members who never sold books before. They contacted us about 60 days ago, saw an Instagram post we made, and joined our Patreon group. He followed our directions. He made business cards. He did free pickups on Nextdoor and Facebook Marketplace. And he did a free pickup. And within 3 days of that free pickup and within 2 weeks of selling books for the first time, he sold the book for $1,750.
Get out of here.
If that
That's
isn't a, if
crazy.
that isn't a life changer, I don't know what is. And now
So
we can't stop him. We've created a monster. So now
yeah.
he's all over town now, really passing out his business cards, and I can assuredly say we've changed his life.
Yeah, so he wasn't selling used books. He
Never.
saw one of your Instagram posts. By the way, I got to take some credit here. I don't know if you remember talking to me like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, Max, you have to put out more content. You're too interesting. You have so much going on. You have to put out more content. Anyways, I take my sliver of of credit. But then he saw your post, joined the Discord, followed your stuff, started doing used books, and then he sold a book for $1,700.
On a free pickup.
That's crazy.
And the beautiful thing about him is,
That makes me want to go pick up some books. I need to go
well,
scan some freaking books.
look, Cody and I say this every day of our lives, 100 times a day to people. The books are everywhere.
Right.
The
Yeah, oh, I
books are
know.
everywhere. The money is everywhere. And this young man who did this had never sold books before. He is what I like to refer to as someone who's a fence sitter. He's thought about it for a long time. He's never made a move. I don't know what video or Instagram post he saw that finally pushed him in the right direction, but something
Mhm.
finally made him contact us. He signed up on a Friday for our group. On that following Saturday, he's already at estate sales, sending me pictures of books, whether or not he should buy them or not. He was making money within 5 days of joining our group. And then 2 weeks later, he hits this home run.
Right. And
That's
keep in
amazing.
mind, that's just one of the books
Yeah.
Sure,
from the
right. Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
pickup. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's not counting the 20, 50, $70 books that are in there.
On our Discord, we have sort of a wall of fame. We have people who sell $100 books, $200 books, $500,000 books. And
Good idea.
that is filling up every day, multiple times from our
It's
members.
awesome. I love that. So, okay, let me hit this question in the comments, and then I have a question
Okay.
myself. So James, Oscar, my friend, Red Olive Industries, he's on here. He says, "Hey guys, are you cross-listing your books to eBay and Amazon, mostly FBM for Amazon? What's that look like for you guys in your model?"
Cody, I'll let you start first.
Yeah, so what I recommend anyone do if you are going to cross list, yes, it is a good idea to do that. But if you're going to cross list, you want to start on Amazon first, cross list from Amazon to eBay, because if you do try and utilize one of these cross listing websites, all they're going to do, like let's say you currently have eBay inventory and you go to cross list those from eBay to Amazon, they're just going to create a brand new ASIN, which if you're not familiar, that's basically how Amazon keeps track of different SKUs. They're going to create a brand new
Sure.
ASIN for your listing. The key to getting good sales on Amazon is following the listings that actually sell on Amazon. So you know,
Totally agree.
you could have a book where, you know, let's say I know this may sound confusing if you're not familiar with the market, but basically you could have a book one listing for a book that has 30 different listings, and then you'll go through and you'll see there's other SKUs individual that have like one or two listings on them, and those are usually from people cross-listing. And you're going to have a very, very low sell-through rate on Amazon utilizing it that way. You want to start on Amazon, find the right SKU for it to make sure you're getting the one that people are looking at, the people are actually the one that's selling, the one Amazon's promoting to Google, promoting on their own page when they search for that book, and then add eBay to that because it's much easier to cross post that way
Makes sense.
around.
Yeah.
I hope that answers James's question.
Yeah, we're
Are
just
you
now getting Max into Amazon merchant fulfilled cross listing right now. We've in the past month or so, I mean, I'd say what maybe 100 or so books we've processed over to your merchant fulfilled side, and you've already seen success with that, right?
You know, my ASP on this very early on now, my ASP is about $68 on Amazon.
Yeah.
Which
believe
I know is going to drop considerably, but it just shows you the difference maker both platforms can be when you utilize both platforms.
Yeah, that makes sense. Koty, are you FBA or FBM mostly?
FBA mostly. I do have FBM and I do have eBay. A lot right now. I'm working on getting things cross-listed from Amazon Merchant Fulfilled to also eBay, but the majority of the stuff that's going on eBay are going to be weird things, stuff that maybe you won't find on Amazon, or things that are lotted together to make a sell. Stuff like
Sure.
that that's usually what's going in on the eBay side. That's actually how Max and I met, is I had a lot of these weird books, stuff I couldn't find anything on Amazon, and I just piled up for multiple years. I was like, I know there's money. I don't have time to deal with eBay. And
Right.
then I saw Max on a show, and I was like, before the show was even over, I like did the digging and found him on Instagram or something. He was like, we got to talk.
Yeah,
And I had a pallet for him ready, within like 2 weeks. We already had a full pallet
that's
ready to
awesome.
go. Um, but yeah, that's where, and my current business model, it's FBA first. Even on these long tail books, I really try and push FBA. And it's all about setting the right price point.
Sure.
You can have a lot of success just by having your book come from FBA. And a lot of people, the problem the thing that they struggle with is they're pricing these books that are long tail if they send them into FBA and still try and get that FBA prime bump, right? When you have less sales at a book, that means less people looking at your book. If less people are looking at your book, they're less likely they are to pay that premium price just because it's coming from Amazon. And I use oftentimes target the merchant fulfilled price on those books to be able to
Sure.
move them. Now, obviously, the price point has to justify that. But again, it's what sets me aside from a lot of the other sellers. That, and I condition my books properly. I've never had a bad review that wasn't struck through because it was some shipping issue on Amazon side or something like that.
Sure.
And it's just been, if you when you learn the market and you learn how to utilize it, it's fruitful.
Mm.
You're going to sell books that you didn't think you'd look at, be like, what? That's got to be nothing. And you'll be very, very surprised at
I
what you
believe
can
that. Yeah.
turn on. Yeah.
And we have a lot of members in our group who are both beginners or you can say intermediate too, but we also have some master level sellers who just weren't familiar with both platforms. They were very good at one platform and not another, and now they're seeing success on both platforms. And so it's changing their mindsets, just from what they used to think a book buyer or a way to sell books was. And
Sure.
as you know, there's so many platforms to sell books on. There's Amazon, there's eBay, there's Whatnot, there's Mercari, Bonanza. There, the books are everywhere, the platforms are everywhere. And what Koty and I are very good at is understanding and how to sell and locate and find books. That's what we're very good at.
Yeah, that's amazing. Hey Cody, what's your FBA storage fees look like, and what's your strategy? Do you liquidate after 90 days, or what's your
Absolutely not. So my strategy is sending in good books. I know that sounds weird, but that's like, if you're sending, like, I'm diligent with what I'm sending in, right? So I pay attention to if a book sells, like I'm looking at the ranks, and then if ranks seem weird, prices seem weird, I go through and I look at Keep It. I'm checking to see what this book sells for, and right then and there, I'm marking and I'm getting an idea of, I write down for my lister to know to list it at this price and to make sure I
sure,
set exceptions in there because if you're not setting exceptions for repricers, you're just going to be compared against everybody else is doing the same thing. So I have those sort of exceptions. But in the last, just for reference, in the last year, again, my average sales rank in FBA is 1.5 million. That's what my average sales rank is
that's
on FBA,
crazy.
and which is wild to most people. But that's just because like I said, I just sold rank only exists, okay, as a tool that can help you. And on 90% of your books, it's a great tool and it works perfectly.
Sure,
But let's say the book is overpriced and nobody's buying it at that overprice section. The rank doesn't really mean much then, right? Because if the book is
sure,
overpriced, nobody's buying, that's the reason. If a book doesn't exist or hasn't existed for very long, let's say there hasn't been a listing up for
yeah,
3 months, your rank is going to skyrocket. Those types of things happen. As an example, in the last year, I've probably removed maybe 15 books over a year. And as far as my long-term storage fees, they can average anywhere between $50 to $100 a month in long-term storage fees. But
Okay, sure.
again,
Yeah, that sounds about
but
right.
again, it is a cost of doing business, right?
Right.
Because when you sell one $100 book, you're paying for all the storage for all of the
For your
other
whole operation.
long-term. Well, I'm saying like I should rephrase. If you sell one long tail $100 book, you're paying for the long-term storage for all of your other long tail expensive books that you're
Right.
sending in. And again, if I'm making $20, if I'm making $30, I'm still sending in long tail stuff, but you have to make sure your price is right, that you're pricing according to what the market is asking for. So
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
Too many times people see, maybe they'll scan a barcode and the book is selling for $895, and they think they found a gem, and
right.
you have to do a deeper dive.
Right.
You
It
Sure.
can't
could be a
just
good book.
rely on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a good book, but it could be we use the term fool's gold, which is, let's say it's a good book. Let's say there's a rank of 7 million, there's 3 copies up for $300, right? But you go back and there's usually 2 outcomes that I notice that happens with those types of books. You go back and look at the history and it's sold, but it sold when it was at $5, which means
Right.
that,
Yeah.
that's the fool's gold.
Mhm.
But there's the other side to that coin, which is it's sold, but it's sold at $50 or it's sold at $75. And nobody's willing to pay $300 for it. So you just got to understand the market for this stuff. That's the
Yeah.
key. That's
And
That
the
makes
super
sense.
key.
the data is all there to understand the history of books being sold. And that's the biggest misconception that people aren't understanding, is the data is there. It's a little bit of extra time, but it guarantees you're making the right decision to sell the book.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that makes sense. Hey, Koty, I think that you would be really good at arbitrage. I'm gonna bring you over to the dark side at some point. Uh,
Okay, okay.
talk,
Don't
you
do
talk,
it.
you talk about Keepa the same way that me and my buddies do. It's like, you got to be pragmatic and
Yeah, no,
look at the real numbers.
I'm 100% open to adding different avenues to my business model. It's just like I mean, as like you were in the book world for a while, doing this, it's like you said, you couldn't get the labor, couldn't get it's time. Time is the hardest thing
Yeah,
for me to
sure.
go out.
Right.
And with that, you've got to like be on, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, by the way, because you're in this world, but you've got to be on top of the deals. You've got to be ready
Yeah.
to be there when these things show up at the right time in the stores, and
Yeah.
be the first one there because again, I'm sure this depends on where you're located, but the market can be very competitive with other people
Oh
doing
yeah.
the exact same thing into these stores
The
because
most
they're
competitive. Yeah.
right,
It's
right. And
crazy. Yeah.
what I will say though, and this is not knocking that by any means, but I know that there have been changes already implemented on Amazon trying to crack down on this stuff,
Hmm.
stores trying to crack down on those things like keeping seller people come people keeping people from coming in and buying so much.
Sure.
It is definitely a fruitful business to be in. It's lucrative, but I don't consider it as stable as the business that I'm in currently, because I know that
Interesting. Sure.
no matter what, the book market, I mean, the book market is the book market, and I can always get good books at a good price. I don't have to worry about, I mean, the only thing is maybe textbooks. I have to worry about a company coming and sending me a letter telling me that I'm
Right.
selling some fake product or something like that.
Yeah.
They're not going to send me a letter on a book from 1930. Like it just doesn't happen on
Right.
those types
Nobody
of things.
cares. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. So again, it's a different world. I respect people that do it. It's just at the current moment, I just I don't have the time to implement stuff
Right.
like that currently.
Yeah.
Um,
I could see that.
that's the only reason for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a real close friend, Heather. You know Heather Scott, Max.
Yeah, of
She
course.
Yeah,
sends you
yeah, I know
consignment
Heather.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So she was doing great with books, and so now we're kind of chatting daily. We're in a little group chat, and it's the time thing. It's hard to have. You would almost have to have a whole used books division and then a
Hmm.
whole other division of systems and whatnot to tackle the it's hard to do it all.
Right.
So yeah, I totally understand. Well, okay, well, let's change direction for a second. So I come to you guys. I have scrounged up $200 or $500, and I've never sold anything on anywhere before. But I believe the dream. Koty says I can be a super entrepreneur, and I want to be Max when I grow up. So what am I gonna do with my $200 to $500? What would your advice be starting? Like I'm willing to work. I'll work 25 hours a week to really get this going. What are my steps? Like how do I get started?
I think Max and I might have two different avenues for this,
Sure.
but Matt, but
It's
go
great.
ahead, Max. Yeah, go ahead with yours. What you think?
Yeah, I would probably say make business cards first and foremost that you're buying books
Business
and
card.
or doing free pickups.
Okay.
Get those to every estate sale company you can in your area, every recycling company, every librarian who has a small library where they have a little book nook where they're selling books, and make
Okay.
sure your business card is out there. So often, and what we found on our Paper Gold channel is that people are giving away books all the time.
Sure.
They're making ads on Nextdoor. They'll do free pickups or Facebook or even on Instagram. Just they do free pickups, and they're getting the riches and the rewards of free pickups. So as long as you have the time to go pick those books up, and you can learn from Koty and I what to look for and how to look for it, I think that's the quickest way to make that $200 to $500 triple, quadruple, or even 10x. I would say in 30 to 60 days.
So I roll up and I take all the books, right? I'm not going and
If they're
picking through.
telling you that you can pick up the books for free, you take everything because you don't know why leave anything for
Sure.
somebody else. Now, of course, that being said, there's going to be a lot of junk. There's going to be maybe some water damaged books or some old books that aren't worth anything. But part of the learning process and part of garnering and making more money in this business is also learning what makes people buy books. And so you have to go through the stage of going through bad books to understand what the good books are.
The
And
spidey sense, the looking at it and being able to, yeah, sure.
And I would also, before I let Koty talk about this, I would also use estatesales.net with your local area code. And I would go on their pictures every week and see which estate sales have the most books pictured. And once you can sort of zoom in on those pictures, you get a pretty good idea of the kind of books they have. You can always go to eBay and match titles and comp them on WorthPoint or Google or eBay. And that will give you a good way to understand the value of books. You don't have to spend $10 on one book to sell it for 20. There are plenty of places that either get free
Sure.
books or buy 4 books for $1 or a book for $1 and turn that $1 into a $25 bill. It happens every day in our business, and it happens 1,000 times a day.
Oh yeah.
Tens of thousands of times a day. And for those people who are fence sitting right now, what I will say is go on eBay, type in the word book, just not books, but just the word book. Then
Yeah.
click on sold and scroll down on January, let's say this 15th, scroll down on January 15th and see how many books were sold on January 15th on eBay. And when you lose track after 2000, let's start talking about it.
Yeah, it's wild. I agree. Yeah.
So I'll let Koty pick up from there.
Yeah, just to piggyback for a second off of what Max said about business cards, a side note, business cards for me have been the cheapest marketing and the most profitable marketing I've done for my business. I've done Facebook ads, I've done ads all over the place, but nothing beats the cards because again, when you're trying to target collections, you got to remember who you're targeting. You're usually
Sure.
targeting older people, right? And
Yeah.
that is an older generational thing that you're getting into these hands of people. And Max has put them in I put them everywhere, man. If a pizza place has got a slot for me to put business cards, I'm putting a stack in there. They're
Sure.
going everywhere because you never know who's in the right place at the right time to pick up those cards. And you're going to find good collections, you're going to find decent collections, but you're also going to strike gold with some of these collections as well.
Sure.
And what I will say that's slightly different than Max with that money is I love reaching out and targeting thrift stores and
Mhm.
targeting libraries, stuff like that. And I try and set myself apart. So, yeah, you can do free pickups, but I offer to buy pickups more often than I do free pickups. And I work with the thrift stores. Most thrift stores, if I'm taking out, you take out your Goodwills, stuff like that, because they're scanning, they have their own chain and back into all this stuff. But you want to target mom and pop thrift stores, stuff like that. 90% of the time, you go in there and you tell them, you say, hey, look, I'm looking to buy a bunch of books at once. Do you guys have a lot of books? Something like that. Most of the time, they're going to have a pile of books in their back room where
Right.
they're waiting to add them to their shelves,
Yeah.
or they're currently throwing them away.
Mhm.
They're funneling them into a dumpster. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen that.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's like Max was saying with going to these estate sales. Most of the time, what you're getting from the back end of these stores are from estates. They are from the
Hmm.
estate of some person. Sometimes you just get, they're donating some of their books or whatever, but
Yeah.
oftentimes they're going to be coming from people's estates, and you're not fighting for, you're not. There's no question as to, well, are these duds when you walk into a thrift store to scan? Did somebody scan before me? No, you're getting something that is
Right.
raw every single time. So that's where I would be putting my money. I would be reaching out to these stores, trying to find somebody that, hopefully that there's nobody else working with them, and
Yeah.
and be there. That's where my name came from. That the first few thrift stores I was working with is they're like, the book guy's here. And I
Right.
was like, I ran with it, and I put that on my cards. I put that on
Yeah.
everything. I was like, I'm the book guy. When you
Right.
need me, this is the person. I'm the person that they call. And Max was saying, be willing to take everything. Always be willing to take everything, because that's a
Sure.
part. Again, you have to remember, you have to provide
You're
value.
solving a problem. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a part of
A
the
headache,
providing
solving a
value.
headache. Yep.
And
Yeah.
if you're picking and choosy, that's not really solving their problem. They're wanting to get rid of the books, and
Right.
you want to be like, no, it doesn't matter. That's fine. Even if you say, look, I'm not going to pay for these magazines of National Geographics, but I'll take them away with me as I
Right.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
pay you for everything else, and I'll take these for
Yeah.
you. I'll take these water damaged books out with me as I go. You know what I'm saying? Like, just be willing to solve problems, and you will be surprised at what you can do. And
Yeah.
that's where I start. I started cherry picking too, but I just realized I really quickly, within a few months, it's like, man, you never really know what you're walking into in these thrift stores. Sometimes you
Right.
can do great, but imagine a world where you have the whole market around you, to where all of
Hmm.
the raw books from all of the thrift stores, they
Yeah.
don't get put out on the floor.
You reroute it to you.
They
Right.
do not get put on the floor. They go straight to you.
Yeah.
And anybody else who's going in and scanning in these thrift stores are just scanning the same books that have been in there for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And and I tell my stores as well. I'm like, hey, if you're ever gonna rotate inventory, totally fine. Just let me know. I'll still buy their duds at the same price, just to keep them happy, and then I'll go in the store and scan for the books that are worth money from the shelves
Yeah.
at that point, and keep it the
Yeah.
same way. You're cut. I don't want to sound harsh about it, but you're gonna kind of cut out the competition around you doing something like that, because why would somebody
Sure.
continue to go in and scan and think books are worth doing if every time they go in a thrift store there's nothing good inside the store? So
Yeah. I would still encourage people to go, like, in the beginning, go and cherry pick some. Like,
Yep.
go and scan. Like, I helped. There's a guy in my area. He's a pharmacist. His wife's a pharmacist. They're very successful, very wealthy, and they wanted help getting started selling on Amazon. And he wanted to try used books for whatever reason, and so he did. And I remember sitting in this bookstore or this like thrift store. Koty, you've probably been to the one. I remember sitting in there, and Cody's in the same area as I am. For anybody who doesn't know that, but we were in there and we were scanning, and then he got his first one, and we were using Scout IQ, and so you get the little ding, and he was
Right.
like, "Oh my gosh, this book is worth whatever." And then I remember he scanned the whole room, and we walked out with two like containers of books, like not like big containers, just like small containers. But he was like completely sold. He was like, "I just made 200 and something dollar profit in excuse me, I just made 200 something dollar profit in like 30 minutes." And so like getting that like exposure to the greens, even though I know you guys don't love the red green talk, but like for us, that's what we did, and it was so exciting to get a green cherry picking. So like getting some exposure, like getting some of those small wins, like maybe you're not ready to go pick up a truckload of books from somebody, but finding one at a yard sale or like an estate sale, like you said earlier, like that could be a big deal.
Right. Well, and you know about the red and greens, yeah, that does work for a reasonable portion of your books, but that's why, we were saying we want people to join our group because we talk about and we go into depth as to
Yeah,
how to
learning.
understand
Yeah.
the numbers and to really understand like that's why I know he had made mention about long-term storage fees. They're not really an issue. I don't have anything on automatic removal. Most of my inventory sells before it becomes crazy with the fees. I'm fine spending $20 in fees on a book that I'm going to sell for $75 plus. Even if I'm
Yeah.
making, let's say it only makes 20 bucks, that's still making $20 from a book that costs 15 cents. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's a numbers game. And as long as you're
Yeah.
sending in inventory that will sell and you're keeping up with your inventory, like that's
Mhm.
what we really try and push is like, doing Amazon FBA, you can do red and greens and you could probably find success with doing that, but you're also going to have a lot of stuff that gets sent back to you. You're going to have a lot of stuff that kind of winds up being dead in inventory because Scout IQ it says it's great, but for me, if the buy box is at $30 and there's 175 people on the merchant filled listing for $4.75, I'm
Right.
sorry,
Yeah.
but
It's tough.
either you're going to get lucky and you'll get the sale, which can happen,
Yeah.
but also Amazon could come in on the book at $8, and then you're kind of like, it's like, were you really going to be making anything from a book like that? Or they go
Yeah.
in and give you a high price error because they've decided that book
That
is
happens too.
deemed
Yeah.
too high. And I don't even like, if a book sells fast enough, sure, I'll put some of those books in my inventory, but most of the time if I see something like that come up, that's not even one that I'll think twice of. It's just going to go
Yeah.
right back into the dud pile.
I've gotten clobbered with those before. I remember, being a little too optimistic about getting the prime bump, and then excuse me, then the next thing you know, the book is 465. Everybody, and it's like, oh crap,
Yep.
So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And that's what I'm more diligent with what I send in than most people are. I know some, they're like, yeah, touch it once, and if it's got a buy box, send it red, green, this much profit, no more than this rank, and I don't
right,
abide by like each book has its own story, pun intended.
sure,
Um, but as far as how you determine what route it should be going, yeah, there's no one true way to know based off
yeah,
of listings and sales for every single book. It's not possible to set a certain guideline for it. And that's what we talk about. Like almost every single time we have a show, this is a this sometimes can take up, an hour of our 2 hour conversation is just talking about one book sometimes where people are just like really curious and trying to understand that.
going deep diving the keepa and whatnot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
We do the Thursday night Zoom call. We call it an hour and a half show, but it's always 2.5, 3 hours, just because we are doing deep dives on a specific book to show as an example of what we do.
yeah, that makes sense.
And so really learning step by step on how to approach this business.
Yeah. I can say for sure, like, I don't do like if I see a used book, I'll look at it, and I've tested a few new books on another platform. I'm started to sell on a Walmart, But like other than that, it's like 1% of my business in the past year. Like we're not doing a lot of books, but I can say like especially when I had a lower budget, like especially getting started, it was obviously where I should spend my time. And I and I know a lot of people say like use it to get started and then do other stuff, but like I really think I could make a go at used books, steal all of Koty the Book Guy's
I was about to say, yeah, we're over
connections.
here, man.
But I mean, I could really make a go at it and make a good living doing that with a higher budget too. So it's not just the low budget option. But I was gonna say too, three successes I've had with books. One was the cherry picking early on, just consistently finding good stuff. Just flea markets and yard sales in different places. Like we made a lot of good profit just scanning with Scout IQ and taking the good stuff. And then two other things. One, Max was a huge help with somebody that I went to high school with messaged me and said, I
Oh
work
yeah.
at a tractor store and we have this room full of tractor manuals. Would you want to buy them all? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Hold on, guys. One second. I'm so sorry. Hello. Hey, I'm on a call. I'm so sorry. Have a great day. Sorry, I'm sitting in Atlanta in my car. Okay, so he said, "Do you want to buy all these tractor manuals?" And he came out with some crazy price. He wanted me to, like it was like thousands. And I messaged Max and sent him pictures, and he was like, "Buy those. Like, don't even worry. Like, just buy all of them." And so, me being the negotiator, I still got him down a lot. And that I mean, I still get a monthly payment from Max. I consigned all of them with him because he helped me with them, and I literally get a payment every month. I'm like, hey, I just got paid again. And it's it's significant. Like they're selling every month, and then the other one, Koty. I don't know if you remember Alex Robinson, the Good News Junk Removal guy.
Yes,
Um, that's how me and you met. He three-way called us and was like,
yes.
"Hey, this guy's trying to get rid of a bunch of books. I know you do books." And then I realized, oh, these are his duds. But yeah, that guy he had me help him with an art school that it had 100-year lease, and the lease was up that year, and so we moved everything out. I was there for some other electronic stuff. I got some really cool like vintage Apple stuff from that place. And then he was like, "Are you interested in the books?" I didn't even know there was books, and there were two pallets where they had just taken the library down and just put them into boxes and stacked them up over in the corner, and just told him to throw them away. And I was like, I guess like I'll look at them, and it ended up being like I did a YouTube video on it. It was like $3,000 or $4,000 in profit just in those books, and I took them all. I took I was in my little Dodge van, and I mean, it was like filled to the brim, every bit of, space I could get. I took everything. So,
And yet you're still
uh,
not doing books more. Explain
it's
that
true.
to me. Explain that.
Here's the main reason I don't do books. This is really it. I like to deadlift and lift weights in the gym. I do not like to deadlift boxes of freaking books. I hated the weight of picking books up and moving. I hated it. So that's one of the big reasons. And I have a good back. Like I'm not like injured or anything. I just lazy. Like I hated doing that
Ha-
thing.
Yeah.
Out of all of the book deals you did early on, did you ever sell a book, say, worth 500 or $1,000?
I never had anything 500 or 1,000. I had several that were like 2 to 300.
Mhm.
I have one in my eBay store still that's a $400 book. I know it'll sell. It just hasn't yet. But yeah, I mean those big hits are amazing. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah. There's nothing like those big hits.
Yeah, well, I mean, Koty,
hmm
that's a similar problem that I had. Actually, early on into 2023, I was to the point I was like, I've got to make a decision. I'm either going to have to swing this, or I've got to figure out how to do it better. And I decided I'm just going to figure out how to do it better, find a better way to
Yeah,
do it,
sure.
and a more
I
efficient
can
way to do
totally
it.
see that.
Yeah, and
If
that
I
that
had
was no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say earlier, like, where were you guys like 4 years ago? Because I think, if I had had better systems and like a community to like kind of,
No.
soundboard with and like work through the systems and like, like I could make a good guess on the keep a chart, but my systems when I had the bulk business were terrible. They were like embarrassingly inefficient. And so
That's
that
why
was a big part of my,
that's
you know,
why
that was a
that's
big
why we're doing this. I mean, Cody and I talked about this for months before we actually started it, but we just kept running into the same thing. Nobody is talking about what the things that we do with books. And so
sure.
we finally just dove into the deep end. And I mean, within 3 months, we had over 70 people as members. And we are answering the questions that you just said you didn't have when you started.
Sure.
Now
Yeah.
those questions are answered quickly, efficiently, and we had a Zoom call at the end of the year, which was all about, it was just all Q&A questions. Any questions that our members had, we answered them before the end of 2023, so they have
Yeah.
no problems going into 2024.
That's awesome. I
Yeah,
think y'all do amazing. Like
thank you.
like new groups pop up all the time, especially in my space. Like all the time, somebody starting a new, a new Discord or a new this or new that. And I always think to myself like, does that have the longevity to really help people and like solve problems and be a real, real like community long term? And I bet you guys will do amazing. So I'm rooting for you. Like it's exciting. I almost want to get back into books and
Oh,
take a
we'll
dive at
get
it,
you
but
there. We'll get
Cody,
you there.
all you gotta do is just send me your leads, brother. That's all you gotta do. We'll work something out. We're
You can
close. We'll work
just
something out.
trade. Just trade.
That's right.
yeah, I
That's right.
love it, man.
You know what?
Well,
You know what would be interesting for both of you? If you could each take a day and you each follow each other around. One day,
yeah,
Cody does stuff with you, doing RA and OA, and then one day you follow him doing books. That would be a cool
yeah,
show.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Except,
Okay.
don't, you don't have to show any secrets.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Let me see if I got any questions here. Uh, James says I account for them in RA and OA, but I feel like books are a different animal. Yeah, totally agree. I still, if I see books, I'll scan them. I'll sell books. It's just, I'm so busy. Same problem
Right.
on the other side.
But what
Yeah,
happens when there's no barcode for you? Then do you ignore them?
yeah. No, I send you a text. I'm like, hey man, what do you think about this? What do you think about this book? Yeah, no, that's funny. Well, guys, thank you so much. I've already taken up almost an hour of your time. Any parting? Oh, I had one question personally for
Yeah.
me, Max. Um, I have a bunch of eBay listings that are, 6 months old or something. What's your process for older eBay listings? Like, what do you do?
Run a sale.
Uh, what is it?
Run a sale. Run a 20% off sale.
Okay.
Run it for 7 to 10 days. What doesn't sell, then you probably have to lower the prices on.
Okay.
So it's a two-step process. Of course, I'll always look at your store if you need me to, and I'll tell you what's good, what's bad.
No, don't do that. I would be embarrassed if you looked at my stuff.
But
I would be
I would
embarrassed.
just, if you need help running the sale, I'll walk you through the process. It takes 1 minute.
Okay.
But I would run maybe a 20% sale and get rid of some of that product and move it
And then
forward.
just price everything down.
Yeah.
Yeah, liquidate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you doing any delete and or whatever it's called?
Sell similar?
Sell similar? Yeah. Are you
Yeah,
doing that or no?
I don't believe in that.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Cody said it earlier in another vein. Sell good books. When you sell
Sure.
good books, you don't have to worry about algorithm tricks or anything like that.
And Cody
Yeah.
too, I know that you didn't mention it, but that's with the assumption that what you have and what you're selling are books. If
Yeah.
you're selling like there's a different strategy to other markets, right? So if you're in
Sure.
a saturated market, it could just be that like you're just, I mean, like that's the hard part about selling a saturated market is if the prices are changing all the time, people are in there for cheaper, it like comes and goes.
Yeah.
It's a different, it's definitely could be a different strategy for those types of items. But yeah, Max is
Yeah, that
right.
makes
You
sense.
just send your books, but also, I'm sure at this point you probably have a better understanding than maybe when you first listed those books of what the
Sure.
value is or how to identify or do the research on them. And that, if after a certain amount of time, the if you run a sale that doesn't work, maybe just go back through and cull through. Regardless if they're or eBay or not Amazon, if they are books or not books,
Yeah.
and just see if that's something that can help you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Well, that's refreshing knowing that you don't do the delete and relist because I feel like I've needed to do that and I just haven't. And so I look back and it's like this should have sold by now. And yeah, I'll run a sell and I'll let you know how it goes.
I think there's a portion of that that does work. I don't want getting angry hate mail that I
Yeah, sure.
just think though, I just think as a bookseller, if you're listing good books, they're going to sell as long as you price them correctly. If you don't price them correctly, why do you expect someone to buy them from you?
Sure.
So
And the content creators that are saying things like relists and stuff, those are the same people that are trying to sell the blue polo shirt that there's 6,000 other listings for on eBay. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Sure.
And
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
coming up with any reason they can to justify why
yeah.
theirs
Well,
isn't selling.
exactly.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's at least my perspective on it. I don't
Yeah.
People may think that's wrong, and that's totally fine. But I mean, when you're in a saturated market, you're in a saturated market, and you're going to have a harder time selling items. Just point
Yeah.
blank.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Cool.
and
Well,
don't list books that are saturated. If there's a listing on eBay and there's 327 books and you're 328, don't list it.
yeah,
Or make sure that it's worth it to you
Yeah,
to list it for cheaper than anybody else is just to get the book moved.
yeah. And let me just finally add, I also don't do free shipping. I don't do promoted listings. I don't do free shipping, and I do this full time.
powerful. That's good
what I
stuff.
got. That's what I
I'm
got.
doing promoted listings and free shipping. I need to do my. I need to.
Come over
need
to
to
the
look at my.
dark side. Come over to the dark side.
That's funny. Well, hey, any other parting advice for new sellers or people looking
Yeah.
to do books more?
I would just say, if you're new, if you're sort of fence sitting and you're not sure, or you're new to books and you're not sure of how to go about it, I would say just give Koty and I 1 month of your time. Just give us 1 month, give us 30
Community.
days, and I guarantee you, we will show you the light and the answers that you may not know about right now.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
And
I'll
one
oh,
thing
go
I
ahead.
will say real quick, I'm sorry, but to add on a note that you said earlier, because it has been stuck in my head, you recommend to still cherry pick, and I do not disagree with that. But one thing I will say about that is based on where you're located. If
Mhm.
you're in a big
Yeah,
city
sure.
like Atlanta, if you're in these really populated areas, I'm telling you, I wouldn't waste my time personally. Like I would be targeting collections, the back ends, any
Sure.
way you can get to those because when you're in those super populated cities, it's just, I mean, yeah, you may get lucky, but I think that's just it. Why base it off of being lucky when you can base it off of truly finding something good?
Yeah.
So that's
Having a
my
strategy.
yeah, that's my only 10 cents on that point.
Yeah, I get that. Cool. Well, I hope we have some people come over and check you guys out. If one of you guys will send me the link, I'll write
I
up the
did.
description.
I sent it on Instagram for you, brother.
Perfect. Yeah. When I get home tonight, I'll write up a blurb and share it
Beautiful.
out. And yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And I'll let you know when I find my next book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us, and we will come on anytime you want. If you want to do a deeper dive, Koty and I would love to come on and do a deeper dive with you as well.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, thank you so much again, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll talk to you when we see you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. See ya.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.